Hello so creative, it's Faustina here. Welcome to another interesting tutorial. On today's tutorial we are going to learn how to cut and sew this beautiful two-piece you are seeing on the screen. The outcome came out so nice. You see how beautiful it's looking on me. So if it's something that you like to watch, grab your popcorn and sit tight and keep watching. And let's dive into the cutting and sewing of this beautiful two-piece. We have already posted our top on our previous video, so this is the part 2 of the sewing and cutting of these two pieces. This part 2 we are focusing on cutting and sewing of the short. I've gone ahead to fold our fabric into two, and I'm going to mark out our starting line in order to get a straight line so we can proceed in marking other parts. So after getting our straight line, the second thing we are going to mark out is our crotch depth. So how do you get your crotch depth? Your hip divided by 4 plus 1 inches will give you a perfect crotch depth. And because we want to add 1.5 inches waistband on this our short, what we are basically going to do is to minus 1.5 inches from the value we have from our hip divided by 4 plus 1 inch gave us 11. And you can see how I minus 1.5 from my tape, and after minusing it I went ahead to rule out the line, and that is going to serve as our crotch depth. We are now left with 9.5. After marking out our crotch depth, the next thing we are going to do is to mark out the length of our short. And the length of our short, we are also going to minus 1.5 inches bind from the length of our short. You can see how I am removing 1.5 inches from my tape. That is how you get it. You mark out the length of your short. That 1.5 inches is going to serve as our waistband, like I said. So I'm adding 1 inch hemming allowance on that short. You need to add your hemming allowance that you're going to use to hem your short hem part. So after marking the short length and our hemming allowance, the next thing we are going to do is to mark out our crotch line. So how to get your crotch line is that from the side, now we are going to impute 11 inches like we imputed for our crotch depth. We are going to impute it exactly there, which is our hip divided by 4 plus 1 inch. We are going to impute that value on the crotch depth and also on the waist, and we are going to join the lines together like so to get our crotch line. So we are going to mark out our crotch extension. Your crotch extension is your hip divided by 20. We give you your perfect crotch extension, and you are going to mark it on that crotch depth like so. And that is it for your crotch extension. You can see what I did there. The next thing we are going to mark out now is our waistline. So from your crotch line, we are going to measure our waist divided by 4 plus 1 inch sewing allowance. If you want to add that, you can also go ahead and add 1 inch that intake. And after adding all the value, you are going to now rule it all over to our crotch depth like so, using your pattern cup. So after joining the waist to that crotch depth, the next thing we are going to mark out now is our crease line, which are those lines that run from the center of your trouser. The crease line allow you to put the circumference of your thigh, your knee and your ankle. So what we are going to do now is to place our tape on that crotch depth all over to our crotch extension and divide our tape into 2 in order to get the middle. And we are going to measure what we have on that middle. What we have on that middle is what we are going to put on that our short length, and we are going to go ahead and rule it out, and our crease line has been formed. So what we are basically going to do is to divide the circumference of where our short is going to stop. I'm using my thigh measurement, so my thigh divided by 2 will give me 12 inches. I'm going to place middle of 12 inches, which is 6, on that crease line. You can see what I'm marking there. I place this on the crease line, I mark from the beginning and I mark the last, which is 12, and I join it all over to my crotch line like so. And this other side, I'm going to join it all over to my hip side, which is my crotch depth side, and our short is ready. What we are basically going to do now is to add our sewing allowance all around the drafted short, which is the crotch line. I'm going to add 0.5 inches. By the side, I'm going to add half inches, and our inner short I'm also going to add half inches, which is our inner short that runs all over to our crotch line, and I added half inches all around. And also on the upper part I added half inches. The side we have already added sewing allowance of 1 inch, so there is no need of adding sewing allowance on that waist side, and also on the crotch depth side. The place we are going to add half inches again is by the side of our short circumference, and after adding the allowances we are basically going to go ahead and cut it out. So once we cut it out, we start drafting the back. We are going to use the front to draft out the back. So after cutting it, I went ahead to fold our fabric into two again. The first thing we are going to do now is to extend our crotch depth for the back. We extended it by 1 inch. If you have a bigger butt, you can extend by 1.5 to 2 inches. After the extension, we are going to mark out from that our crotch line. You can see the crotch line. I came in by 1 inches. And on the crotch depth, I'm going to indicate our crotch line, and I'm also going to come in by 1.5 inches. You can see what I'm marking there. This is in order to give your back crotch line a very big curve. Your back crotch line should have a slanty, very big curve, not just regular curve like your front. You can see how slanted it is. That is it, so that it will enter your butt very well, most especially for people that have big butts or fuller butt. So I came in by 1 inch from my front crotch line. You can see what I did there, and on the waistline I came in by 1 inch and I slant it. That is where how we got the slanted line. And on our crotch extension for the back, what we are going to do is divide our hip divide by 10. Our hip divide by 10 will give us the cross extension for the back, and we are going to impute the value we have from the 1.5 inches that we came in. And the next thing now is to curve it. You can curve it with your pattern curve, or you curve it with your free hand. Anyone that is more convenient for you, you should do it. And after curving it, go ahead and add half-inch sewing allowance all around the back crotch line. We are going to place back the front short, and we are going to replace that 1 inch that we came in from the waist to the side. We are going to replace it to the side. And for the crotch depth, the 1.5 inches that we came into, we are also going to replace it by the side of the hip line, and we are going to mark the waistline of the back. This is how the waistline of the back is. You see, is a little bit higher than the front. That is the essence of extending your back crotch depth. On the hip line, we are also going to replace that 1.5 inches that we came in from the crotch line from the side, and we are going to join that 1.5 to the 1 inch of the waist, like so. We are going to join it using our pattern curve, and after joining it, for the down side we are going to mark out half inches. We are going to come at half inches and also join it all over to our waistline, like so. So that is how you mark out your back trouser shorts, any trouser of your choice. This particular drafting pattern can serve for any type of trouser you want to sew, and it fits perfectly. I kid you not, it fits so perfectly, whether you are sewing for a bigger butt or a medium size butt, it fits so perfectly. So after marking all the other parts the same, like I said earlier, on that crotch line, add half inches. I did not add half inches and it affected my pattern, so don't make mistake. Add half inches on that sewing pattern of the crotch line. So what we are basically going to do is to go ahead and sew half inches on the crotch line, both for the front and also for the back. So I quickly move over to my sewing machine and go and sew it and come back and show you. So I've gone ahead to sew it, and watch very closely and see how we join the two crotch line together. So I'm going to open up the front and also open up the back, and we are going to place the two crotch line meeting each other by the inseam of our short, and we are going to sew half an inch. So once you place it together and align it, it's going to match. You're going to go ahead and sew half inch for the inseam of your trouser. So once you sew the inseam of your trouser, this is how it's going to look. You're going to go ahead and flip it like so, and go ahead and start marking out your waistline, your hip line, and other parts of your beautiful short. So after marking my waistline, I went ahead to mark out my hip line, and I divided the allowance that I have into two and share it two equal half on both sides. So that is how you mark out your measurement. So after marking one side, I also went ahead to join the other side. I'm basically going to move over to my sewing machine and go and
The
join
next
the
thing we
side.
are going to join now is the bind. So I went ahead to loosen up the back crotch line because I want to add zip on it, and I went ahead to measure what I have round the waist, and the value I have round the waist is what I'm going to use to cut my bind. And after measuring it, I'm going to go ahead and cut it through. My bind is 4 inches width, and the length depends on the waist you are working with. So when I cover the 4 inches, I will be left with 2 inches, which is half inches is for sewing, like we remove 1.5 earlier when we are drafting. So I'm going to firstly sew the inside of our bind, the inner part, and this is how it's looking. This is how you close up the outer part. You bring in the bind in the front, hem it a little bit and place it on the line that you have already sewn, and you start pinning. So once you pin to this point, this is how your bind is going to look. You see how beautiful it's looking. You are going to go over and run a stitch on it, and after hemming it, the next thing we are going to hem is the down part of our necker. And I also went ahead to hem the 1.5 inches we added for our hemming allowance for the both down part of our necker. So I like making use of my pin because once you pin down anything, to sew it will be so easy for you. So I've gone ahead to run a stitch on it. The next thing I'm going to do now is take it over to my ironing table and iron press it very fine, and also go ahead and add zipper on the short. The short does not have pockets, and that is why it's so easy for us to sew. If it has pockets now, it will be a long process or another ball game on its own, but since it does not have a pocket, that is just it. It's very simple. You can even use 5 minutes to make it. And if you have watched to this point, thanks for watching. See you in my next one. Bye bye.